Welcome everybody back to the channel. We are here today doing a Bullit shootout. So we've got the Bullit 3, the last gen Bullit, up against the Bullit 4. Been on this bike for a couple months, but we're out here today. We're gonna put both bikes through their paces and hopefully see what the differences are. If you're looking at these bikes right now, you will know that there's a bit of a price difference. This one's currently on sale, but they are both in stock. So we're gonna talk today about build kit. We're gonna talk today about range and battery life, as well as Shimano versus Bosch, and some of the geometry changes between those. I brought Parker along with me. He came for the last time we went down to Santa Cruz. We did a Heckler versus Bullit shootout. So Parker, what do you think your first impressions are gonna be?
I'm excited to try the new stuff. It looks really good, and the suspension design is definitely exciting, but gonna have to beat the old tried and trusty right here.
Yeah, the old tried and true. Obviously, we've both been Santa Cruz fanboys for a very long time. The VPP feels like home. We know exactly what it feels like. You haven't spent much time on the new 4-bar stuff. So yeah, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are today. We do have a little bit of build kit differences. These are both technically GX Axis builds, but we got Maxxis tires on the Bullit 3, Continental tires on the Bullit 4, Mavens over here on the 4, and then we've got TRPs here. I think the biggest issue I've felt between both bikes is that the dropper cannot get nearly as low on the Bullit 3 due to the shock tunnel design. Bullit 4, it's absolutely slammed, so you'll definitely feel that. But as far as suspension goes, they're pretty similar. Coil over here, but both Fox Performance Elite 38s. And yeah, I think the suspension's pretty dialed. So we're gonna do probably 6, maybe 7 laps, do a little switcheroo, and then hopefully give you our final impressions down at the bottom. I think a big talking point is definitely going to be the range. I know that from riding this bike for a while, that range is an issue, but I think overall motor support's pretty good. What do you think you're going to feel between the Bosch and the Shimano?
I honestly was impressed with the Shimano the last time I rode it. I definitely noticed the noise, but I'm excited to see how quiet the Bosch is, and I'm also excited to see how the motor engages and how it disengages, because I know the last time I rode an e-bike I was on the Shimano, and it was definitely something to consider with the Shimano kind of going past that pedaling point. I'm not sure if I'll notice that with the Bosch or if it'll taper off a little better compared to the Shimano, but definitely excited to see what it feels like. Yeah,
I'd agree. I think the Bosch is a little bit more intuitive. It's obviously quieter, but I was pleasantly surprised when I got back on the Shimano yesterday. It's got a lot more support than I think most are expecting. So yeah, we're gonna get out on the trails. We're gonna put these bikes through their paces. Like I said, there's a significant price difference between the 3 and the 4. So hopefully we can help you by watching this video decide which bike is for you and your use case basis. All right, let's get out on the trails. A little gap jump right here.
Oh yeah, what the heck is that? Ooh, oh my gosh. No, I just slapped a little corner, just a little taster. pedaling position is definitely different. Almost feels like, it feels like this one sits up a little higher when you're pedaling it.
Yep.
It's very odd. The bars are further away, but I'm more upright.
Right.
The
Lower
stack,
and
yeah.
also
less
less
reach.
heat. Yep.
Yeah, less reach, higher or lower stack. Yeah.
So you're more on top of it.
Motor-wise, this thing feels like it's pulling more in trail when you have the cadence up.
Yeah.
It's like this motor just needs to have the cadence up. That motor is kind of like needs you to push a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get to those kind of low-end torque moves, that thing definitely is going to be better.
Yeah. Just more just like kind of falls off a little bit.
Yeah, the new Bullet is going to be better on the low torque situations. It feels like this motor is more like pulsating on the power. Like it kind of almost takes the pedals out away from under you for a second.
Okay.
And then like stops, and that one definitely has a more natural feel.
Yeah.
But in trail, it feels like I'm trying less hard on this bike if I keep the cadence going.
Really?
Yeah. That just could be down to the way the trail mode is tuned on this thing.
Yeah.
Like right here, last time, I hardly had to pedal. That one was more pedaling, but now I'm pedaling less hard, I guess, than that one. It's weird.
All right, I'm back on the Bullet 4 climbing. After riding the Bullet 3, I actually thought that this bike was faster, but now that I'm back on it, I kind of feel like it's negligible. Parker's ripping off on me. He weighs about 40 pounds less than me, so he's just gassing off. It's not nearly as much, but I do feel like the Bosch takes less effort, I guess less of a cadence to hold the power. You're not shifting as often. On the Shimano, you want to be in that cadence of like 90 and above to really put the power down. But I feel like climbability of both bikes is honestly matched. I'd say it's even playing field. Just you gotta be in that higher cadence on the Shimano. However, Bosch is quieter. Bosch was a little bit more comfortable. So I feel like if effort on climbs is a big thing to you, Bosch probably takes the cake. But overall effort level between both, I think is similar. Just the Shimano, you're gonna ring it out a little bit higher, be in a higher cadence. Sick, send it.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Haha.
Oh, did I miss it?
You're good.
Okay.
Right here.
Okay. Do you want to wait for a second? Okay. Oh.
What'd What'd you think?
Yeah, the braking is like the biggest thing.
Isn't it significantly different?
I would say the traction was definitely less, but not like as like that much. Like it was definitely a little bit less, but it was more just like this thing standing up, dude.
Yeah.
It just goes, and I just kept getting thrown on the front. I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit. And
Yeah.
then landing too, I feel like I was just kind of like, ugh. Like I don't know how to describe it.
I think in bouncing back to this thing's a little bit stiffer.
Yeah.
And the way in which it moves through its suspension, especially as you're going into big compressions,
Yeah.
it just handles it better.
Yeah.
Like I'm braking later, I'm braking harder, and the second I get off the brakes, it just like wants to accelerate. Yeah. Whereas that thing is just like more lively and more like skittery, which is just like super fun.
Yeah.
But in terms of overall support as well as like overall control, this Bullit 4 has a beat.
Yeah.
This bike felt faster
Because you're just skipping over.
Yeah.
You're just like,
yeah.
That one though was just like, it just like was like on the ground.
Yeah. I think that might just be a first lap sort of thing.
Yeah.
As you ride this bike more, I think you'll feel like you can get off brakes more. Like that thing wants to float.
This thing wants to just kind of like skip over everything and just go whoosh.
Yeah.
Whereas like I keep using these sound effects.
No, I get it.
But,
There's one corner in particular, you know, before you hit that step up,
yeah.
there's like the jump and then the step up. There's like a bunch of chunky bumps and then a right-hander that's full 90 degrees that has almost no support.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like this bike really shines, because you can basically just chomp through the bumps, dig in hard and slap in. Whereas on that thing, it's just, oh my gosh, am I gonna make the corner?
Yeah.
I noticed on this bike, it feels like get more feedback through my feet. And my feet want to get tossed around more. I don't know if the Bosch is better at decoupling or what, but noise is more. Feedback to the feet is a bit more. But it's so flicky, it's so fun to ride. Doesn't charge as hard, that's for sure. I think a lot of that has to do with geo and anti-rise values. Feeling good now though, starting to get some flow. You just have to be way more picky and choosy about where you grab your brakes. Braking earlier on this Bullit than the other one. Don't have nearly as much rear wheel traction, but it's fun. It's drifty. It's not gonna be as fast or as confidence inspiring. But man, I'll be damned. This bike freaking rips. Up high, shut it down a little bit. Oh gosh. Sick. Definitely more flexy. Definitely more flexy. That was sick though, that was a ripper. That was probably my fastest lap. Starting to vibe with it. Dropper going down helped a lot. Just about an inch. I dropped about, 20 mil. Stack height I think is good with this setup. Honestly, this bike rips. Pretty sick. Good job. Good job. Send it back. Oh, sorry. Back on the 4. 4 rips. 3 rips too, but the 4 just rips harder. That's all there is to it. You're all right. Oh my gosh. Let's go right and hit the chute. So we ended up cutting it just a tad short today. We did 4 laps total, 2 on the Bullit 3, 2 on the Bullit 4, and yeah, I'm just gonna let Parker take it away.
The first thing I noticed was that the Bullit 4 definitely stayed on the ground a lot better than the Bullit 3. The Bullit 3 felt like it wanted to skip over everything and kind of keep its speed, whereas the Bullit 4 wanted to kind of stay on the ground, kind of maintain traction. I felt that braking traction on the Bullit 4 was a lot better, and I also felt that translated to being more centered on the bike, whereas the Bullit 3 wanted to kind of throw me forward. In terms of the motor, I felt that the Bullit 4 had a more natural motor that made you feel more connected to the drivetrain and that you were the one powering the bike, versus the Bullit 3 felt like the drivetrain would take over and then like let you catch back up. It was kind of almost a pulsating motion. And I think that was not necessarily a bad thing on the climbs, because the motor kind of felt like it was doing more work. I don't know if it was actually doing more work just because the trail mode may have been tuned to be a higher assistance.
Yeah.
But it made it feel like it was doing more work than I was.
Yeah, I was surprised at how fast you took off, really on both bikes, and I think that has to do with a little bit of our weight. Yeah. I'm a little bit heavier than you, so you're able to just zip up the climbs a little bit faster. I do feel like they're honestly matched in terms of climbing. It's just when things get steep, you have to be really cognizant of your cadence with the Shimano, and you want to keep that higher cadence. So if you want to spin at like a 70, 80 cadence normally, the Bosch is just going to be more supportive on the climbs. But I think power for power on the climbs, they're pretty much matched. Now we do know that the Shimano has a 630 watt-hour battery. The Bosch has a 600 watt-hour battery, removable on the Bullit 3, non-removable on the Bullit 4. But I bet you'll be surprised to know that the range today, at least, in the 4 laps that we did 3 laps in trail, 1 lap in boost race.
Yeah, race.
And there is 56% battery left on the Bosch, 53% battery left on the Shimano. Now, there is a major drop-off when you hit 20% on this thing. It goes limp mode and dies. So usable range is definitely less, but it's crazy to see that at 100%, they're almost equal in the laps that we did. So I thought that was pretty cool, because everybody complains about the range on this bike. And yes, there is that significant drop-off, but pretty close.
Yeah, that could have been the wheelies that I was doing on the climb up.
Probably was that extra 3%.
I think another factor also was that out here, the climb, even though it is a fire road, is steep.
Yeah, it's a battery zapper.
Yeah, and I also think that the Shimano motor kind of dies out a little bit when it gets steeper.
Yeah.
Unless you drop a bunch of gears.
Yeah.
And I think that might lead to the battery kind of getting sucked more trying to catch up.
Yeah. So right now, as these bikes sit, they're both the GX Axis builds. You can buy this one for $9,600 or this one for $6,600. It's a $3,000 difference. Now, do you think that the ride quality warrants the $3,000 difference?
Ooh.
That's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Because there is now this monetary function. You can get out, you can ride a bunch of trails, you can have fun. Range might be an issue. But if you're doing under 4,000 K, that might not be an issue for you. This could be the way to go, and you're saving $3,000. So it's hard to say. I think with the way that I ride, the Bullit 4 is more supportive of the way that I ride. It's more aggressive. You can brake harder, you can brake later. It has way more traction. I feel like I want to go faster and faster, safer on this bike. I didn't look at the times today, but that's just how it felt. It felt more controlled. It felt safer.
Yeah.
And it felt like, because it was stiffer, maybe too, it was a little bit more fatiguing. But I think that you can adjust to that. So I guess that's the question. Where do you go? Do you save a little bit of money, run the Shimano stuff, or do you splurge for the Bosch that's current tech, a little bit more range with a more optimized setup?
I think if it was up to me, I would wait until I could afford to buy the 4.
Really? Okay.
And I think a lot of that comes down to being more in control and being safer, you know?
Yeah.
I think feeling safe and not crashing is hard to put a price on, but I also think that I would be more comfortable riding more trails on this bike. Whereas that bike, I might be like, ooh, this is gonna be spicy, but I would,
Yeah.
you know, you'd still probably do it,
Yeah.
but this bike wouldn't have a second thought on some trails.
Yeah, and I'd agree, because obviously what we're riding today is more flowy. It's a little bit chattery. Some of the berms are unsupported. So if you're talking about getting into chunkier trails with steeper stuff, that's going to be, you know, more risk management. Yeah, it's hard to not continue to reach for the 4.
Yeah.
When I rode this thing yesterday, I was super stoked on it. I still think that this is a great bike, but in comparing the two, I really think the 4 takes the cake. And it just goes to show that, like, Santa Cruz is aware. Obviously, they had to change their suspension platform away from the VPP to package the new Bosch setup, and I think they knocked it out of the park. I really think it's a great bike, but it does come at a cost.
Yeah, I think it's a great bike, and I think the deciding factor on this bike is solely down to the braking characteristics.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest improvement they made on this bike,
Yeah.
and I think that's absolutely key in a lot of sections in the trail.
Yeah. Was there any geometry from either bike that you were super stoked about, or maybe not that stoked about?
I did actually like the Bullit 3, felt a little smaller.
Okay.
And I think I prefer a little bit of a smaller bike
Okay.
on e-bikes.
Makes
because
sense.
it doesn't make it feel so cumbersome
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, I think when people size down in e-bikes, if you're on the cusp, sizing down in e-bikes is not a bad thing to do, especially because of the weight. Like you're saying, it's cumbersome, so it's a little bit easier to flick and manage. So I would agree. I think that also too, the head tube angle being a little bit steeper, I think means that it's just more input from the front end. So like as you turn it versus that one is like a little bit later, a little bit more leaned in. So yeah, I think that that's interesting as well. Ride characteristic wise, my biggest complaint is the dropper. That's the thing I noticed the most. And I feel like because I have so much drop on this bike, I can also lower the stack, which puts me in a better like neutral position. Whereas this thing, because of the shock tunnel, I'm kind of limited on dropper height, and it kind of always feels like it's sort of there in between my legs. Whereas on the Bullit 4 with the 240, I honestly forget it's even there. It never touches me. I don't think about it. So yeah, and I think build kit wise, the bikes are pretty well sorted. I don't think I would really change much. But yeah, it was really cool to come out here and put both bikes up against the test. I think that if budget is your sole factor, getting on an e-bike sooner and having more fun with your friends, not a bad way to go. But if you can splurge, there's a reason why this bike took so long to come out. They've optimized everything, especially the braking characteristics, the ride characteristics, the stiffness. Yeah, if you want the better, more high-performing bike, you can't deny that that's the Bullit 4.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
All right, so that about wraps it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully we can make more videos like this. Thanks Mike's Bikes for getting me on the Bullit 4, getting us a chance to come out here and test it, and thanks for watching.